the Charlie Kirk killing at the end of the day, listen, I didn't know who Charlie Kirk was. I've got to be honest with you, before he was shot dead. I didn't have a clue. My children's generation knew, and probably their, you know, I'm the kids' parents, grandparents' age, so maybe their parents knew who Charlie Kirk was. I didn't have a clue who he was, and he certainly really wasn't appealing to me. He was 30-something, appealing more to the youth of the United States of America, and to a particular type. But obviously, my son, at 16 years of age and as interested in politics as frankly is interested in women's netball, knew who he was and had, in actual fact, followed him. So there you go. But Charlie Kirk has at least led to the conversation about, well, when we start to assassinate people we disagree with. And there was the interesting thing. Charlie Kirk had strong conservative activist views from what I've now read of him, many of which I have to say are taken out of context. I read one of those this morning by a Herald columnist, well known for his left liberal views, Simon Wilson. He was a former TVNZ journalist who ran foul, I have to say, of Prime Minister Rob Muldoon. Was always a bit of a smarty pants. He was an NZUSA, University Students Association president, and always has lived on the liberal left of politics, to be fair. I mean, I don't think he's ever made any excuse for doing so or has ever denied that. But he's written a column in the New Zealand Herald basically suggesting that the rhetoric that was used by Charlie Kirk was really, in essence, his argument is unworthy of the kind of respect and adulation that is being accorded Charlie Kirk in death. All right? So he's essentially saying, well, why don't, if you examine what Charlie Kirk's saying, there's nothing particularly laudable about him. And in actual fact, it's just sort of a same argument as the simplicity found to Sam Stubbs, who said, God, I wish all of Charlie Kirk's ideas had died with him, and sort of clapped at the in a very offensive way at the death of somebody as that he disagreed with as being a good thing, which Sam Stubbs has still got his job, by the way. Sam Stubbs has still got his job. The media have moved on. Okay? Just remember this. Stuart Nash, one crudity on the platform, gone. Wrong politics, you see. Anyhow, but Simon Wilson gave as an example this morning, Charlie Kirk making a point about whenever he sees a black pilot, he hopes they've got their qualifications. Now, and he's said that, well, it's racist, and obviously it's wrong, and he's sort of an activist, and he's a firebrand, and really he's not deserving of respect. He's not like Martin Luther King. He made the comparison, you see, this morning. But you see, the context was taken out of, quote was taken out of context. What Charlie Kirk was talking about was the admissions policy of many universities and professional qualifications setting aside quota for particular ethnicities, particularly blacks, and therefore dropping the standards. Now, we've talked about this in this case, for example, in medical schools in this country. And so what he was saying is, well, I'd like to know that the person flying the plane is a qualified pilot, not that they got backdoor entry simply because they were black and therefore won't have necessarily the same intellectual acumen, skill or training that any other pilot might have. So already the left, you see, misquoting Kirk to try and condemn him, and Simon Wilson did that in the New Zealand Herald this morning. So obviously the truth dies all the time when you are as polarised and as polemical as someone like Simon Wilson in the New Zealand Herald. And the New Zealand Herald printed it. Now, can I say it's fair enough to have a columnist that takes a view, but it would be nice if they just concentrated on the facts. And again, Simon Wilson makes the contrast between a black man shot dead, a civil rights activist, Martin Luther King. Gosh, I remember that well. I was only a young kid, but it was shocking. And Charlie Kirk being shot, which it was a conservative activist, and really not in, different people, different ages, different generations. I don't know how you could ever make a comparison or suggest they were similar, but it doesn't matter. Well, they were both assassinated for political ends. But in many ways, Kirk's assassination is absolutely part of the United States politics and culture. And I've talked to you before, given you chapter and verse upon how political assassination in the United States is, along with their gun laws, part of, it would appear, the extreme end of their culture and of their politics. And it hasn't just happened now in the 21st century. It was a feature of both the 20th and the 19th century in US politics as well. And I'm not even talking about it at a presidential level. I'm talking about a state level. I'm talking about a federal level. At a county level. And so, it's easy accessibility of guns. The idea that I hate somebody so much I'm going to kill them. It's been around for 200 years in the United States of America. Here, we're not like that. And then I have to also say, by the way, Simon Wilson, in the same column this morning in the New Zealand Herald, decided to condemn Charlie Kirk for espousing the great replacement theory. And that is, how dreadful he should say this. And then in the same line, I said this, or was this effect? No, he said this. The same theory espoused by mass murderer Brenton Tarrant. So Kirk and Tarrant were linked by Simon Wilson this morning in the New Zealand Herald as a reason essentially why you should feel no sympathy for the assassination of a conservative activist in the United States of America on a Utah University campus, because a mad Australian with a gun had gone mad in a mosque in Christchurch. But we'll correlate these two uncorrelative things to condemn and to criticise and to cauterise. So there's a really good example of the left in this country deciding to invent associations, create facts, misrepresent and deliberately misinterpret quotations for the point and purpose of discrediting an individual and justifying a killing. It's extraordinary. And the New Zealand Herald published and printed it this morning. Those are my thoughts this morning. Anyhow, what are yours? And boy, I've had a lot of thoughts this morning, so I'm more interested in yours.